Good morning, sir. I am Shritam Ghosh of class 11. Today I will present you my presentation which is based on the narrator of the story We Are Not Afraid to Die If We Can All Be Together, written by Gordon Cook and Alan East. First of all, I am going to introduce you to the story. The story revolves around a part of the round the world voyage undertaken by the narrator and his family in a sailboat named Wave Walker. It describes their thrilling journey across the sea and their close encounter with death during their voyage. The plot also talks about their possible attempts to save their lives. Now I will tell you the summary of the story. In the month of July in the year 1976, the narrator of the story, his wife Mary, his son Jonathan and his daughter Susan set sail from Plymouth in England to duplicate the round the world voyage made 200 years ago by Captain James Cook. They took the trip in their professionally designed ship named the Wave Walker, accompanied by two sailors, Larry Wiesel, who was an American, and Huff Segler, a Swiss, to tackle one of the world's roughest oceans, the Southern Indian Ocean. The first portion of the journey, that is about 1,05,000 kilometers up to Cape Town, passed off very enjoyably. After the family welcomed the new year, they began to encounter an unfriendly weather at the dawn of 2nd January. They took all precautions to fight it, but all of a sudden at around 6 pm, a terrific explosion shook the Wave Walker and the narrator was turned overboard and made him injured. In spite of a lot of injuries, the narrator managed to fill up the gaps which stopped the water entering into the ship. We witnessed that the children Jonathan and Susan were heavily injured but not afraid to die if they were all together. Their courage made the narrator more determined and courageous to fight the sea. By struggling whole night and pumping out water, they were able to touch the Isle Amsterdam the next evening, which felt to them as the most beautiful island ever seen. To sum up, we can say that the collective power of unity and never failed confidence of the sailors made it possible for them to survive and come out from the jaws of death. Now I will tell you about the characters in this story. The narrator, who is a 37-year-old businessman and wants to duplicate the round the world voyage by Captain James Cook 200 years ago and begins his journey with his family. Mary is the narrator's wife and supports her husband's dream and improves her sea skills and joins her husband in the 3 years voyage. Larry Wiesel, an American, and Huff Segler, a Swiss, both have joined the voyage at Cape Town to help the narrator and his family to cross the Southern Indian Ocean. Susan, who is narrator's 7-year-old daughter, who shows immense courage throughout their voyage in spite of her injuries. Jonathan, who is narrator's 6-year-old son, who also shows immense strength and optimism even in difficult times, and by the words of their children, the narrator became more determined to save their lives. Here I have also presented some brief analysis of the characters other than the narrator. You may go through this. Now I will present you the character analysis of the narrator or the protagonist of the story. The narrator was a married man with 2 children who had set sail from Plymouth, England to duplicate the round the world voyage made 200 years earlier by Captain James Cook. He was a 37-year-old businessman who, with his wife Mary, had dreamed of sailing in the wake of the famous explorer and for the past 16 years had spent all their leisure time honing their seafaring skills in British waters until their boat Wave Walker was ready. The captain of the ship, who is the narrator of the story, was a courageous man who defines what a man can do with perseverance and dedication when push comes to the shove. The narrator had hurt himself when a tremendous explosion shook the deck of his ship and he smashed his head into the wheel when a huge wave broke over the ship. He was flung overboard and found himself sinking below the waves. He thought death was approaching him and he lost consciousness. The narrator felt that his death was imminent and he saw that his boat was going to capsize with her mast horizontal and it was flooded with water. The impact of the waves on the narrator had nearly led him to believe that he was dying and to accept that fact with composure. However, the thought of his family's survival pulled him back and he fought really hard until he had brought them all to safety. He loved his family, especially his 2 children, who were already exhibiting signs of possessing their father's indomitable courage and resilience. From this, we can conclude that the narrator drives home the message that optimism, strong willpower, great determination, and the strong support of the family can help one come out of any disastrous situation with success and enriching experience. Moreover, it won't be wrong to say that all lives on the boat could be saved just because of his seafaring skills. Sir, with this we have come to an end. Thank you, sir.